I just got so focused on myself and so focused on where am I going to grad school? How am I going to get into grad school? What am I going to go to grad school for? And all of these things that I felt I needed to do to better myself. And I did not trust God at all. I didn't even think about God throughout this process. I didn't pray. I didn't include him in any decisions I was making. I just made the decisions and felt like I was on a really good path with my life. I was like, oh, I'm fine, like I'm doing good, I'm in grad school, I'm working 40 hours a week, I'm hanging out with friends. I just had all these things that I was putting in my life to take away from the fact that I felt guilt for not going to church and guilt for not praying and guilt for not having God in my life. And this did well for a while until the pandemic. So it was March of 2020, and I'm sure everyone feels like this, but life just comes to a halt. And all of the things and all the excuses and all of the ways that I would put my life to exclude God from it were gone. I used to remember just being so lost and so sad and so just grieving of like where I was and the lack of faith and lack of relationship with God that I had, and just how lonely I was. Like I never saw anyone, and I'm a very social, extroverted person, so it was really difficult for me to not even see my family. So during COVID, I would walk a ton. I walked 2 times a day, in the mornings usually, and in the evenings. And I was walking like 20,000 steps around my neighborhood. And I lived in Wash Park at the time. And this walk consisted of me going up to Wash Park and just walking wherever I could, to Gaylord, really just anywhere to take the stress out of my life. And I remember walking past this church a lot, and I just don't even know like what the feeling was of just like I kept walking past the church and looking at it and being like, that church looks kind of cool. I like the color, like looks like a cool church. Like I haven't really thought about going to church for years, but if I did go to church, like maybe I would go to that church. This was one of the ways that I would walk during the pandemic. A lot of times I would include on both walks. But I remember on like one of my first walks, it was during like the very beginning of the pandemic, like when we thought things would be closed for 2 weeks. So in my mind, walking past this, it was going to be something that would be really easy for me to be like, okay, like maybe I'll go back to church. Like I'll go back to church in like 2 weeks. And then it turned into, well, maybe I'll go back to church in a month. But I think I was really just like craving something that I didn't even know I was craving. And I think that was God just really like putting this church, this building in my life to be like, hey, like you need me and you want something more. Like this isn't enough in your life. Even before the pandemic, like was it enough? It didn't feel like enough. So it's been really, I think even though I never came to this church, I think it just still for me represents like one of the first big pivotal moments in regaining my relationship with God. Because I think if this church had not been there, if I hadn't walked by it a lot during the pandemic, I honestly, like, I don't know what would have prompted me to start thinking about wanting to have a relationship with God again. And I noticed, like, on Instagram, I was checking everything on social media, that something called the Brook had followed me. And I had no idea what it was. But I was like, I'm going to follow them back. They seem pretty cool. And it was a Christian organization. I was like really confused by it. I think my other friend on the trip had been followed by them too. And I was like, I think I want to check this out. So I filled out a Connect card, or like an intake form online, and Molly called me. And we had our first FaceTime with each other that was like 30 minutes. And she invited me to the first happy hour. I couldn't go that time. But we kept talking. She invited me into a small group, and I started going to the small group. And then the second happy hour came around about a month later, and I remember Molly inviting me again, and I didn't have plans. So I don't know. I was just really nervous about meeting a bunch of people who I didn't know or I'd met online. And I'm a pretty outgoing person, but for me, like, this was a lot, just not having even like one friend to go with. So I was driving down the street, and I was driving like really slow because it had honestly come faster than I thought it would. And I thought I'd have like more time to like mentally prepare to meet people, but I was like driving down the street, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have like, I thought it was gonna be inside. So I like get to the spot, and everyone's in the parking lot, and I'm like, where do I park? Like, I'm sorry, like, where do I park? So I did this. Yeah, this parked, I think, like right here. So yeah, I parked like right here, and everyone was so close, like right there, like all in the parking lot. Everyone was hanging out, and I was just sitting here like, oh no, what am I doing? I don't know anyone. I was like trying to like kind of see if I knew anyone. There was probably like 30 people there. And I think I was in my car for a good like 5 minutes, because I was like, I could just drive. I could just keep driving, and I could just not come. And I could just miss this whole thing and be like, hey Molly, sorry, like couldn't make it. Like work coworkers want me to go to happy hour with them. Just couldn't make it. But then I'd been sitting here so long that I was like, someone has seen me just sitting in my car. Like I probably seem like the biggest creeper ever. So I was like, well, I guess I should probably go in. So, I got in my car, and I went over and started talking to people. Everyone was literally like right here. So I just kind of like walked over, and I think there was like some drinks set up and some tables over in this area. But yeah, I just remember walking over and being like, I hope someone recognizes me, or I hope I see Molly like really quick. So I think it was like right here. Like everyone was like mingling and talking, and I think the first person I saw was Molly, and so I remember kind of like being like, hey, like, do you recognize me in person? I know I look pretty gross on FaceTime all the time because, the pandemic. And I remember it was like the first time I'd like looked nice, or like nicer in a few months. So it was like, do you recognize me? I know I probably look really different in this outfit. But yeah, I just remember meeting Molly, and then I met Cassie for the first time in person. I met Rachel Matheson for the first time. I met Jake Marvin. I met Tim, of course, and Jason. And yeah, I mean, everyone was just so welcoming and so nice, and it was just really cool to be around people who were so friendly. And I know a few people had met the first happy hour, so I think I was kind of intimidated that I missed the first one. And like, I was like, everyone's gonna be best friends, and like, I'm gonna be this weirdo that's coming by myself. But everyone was just so nice. If you're also someone that's been feeling lonely or overwhelmed, or just lost, I would really encourage you to get connected with the Brook. It's somewhere that has enabled me to have such great relationships and to be able to really grow my faith with God. And it's changed my life completely. And I think that if you want to get connected and are able to get connected, I would highly encourage you to do it, because I think it will change your life.